Wow, 2 Sonic videos in the same year. Who am I, the Currybox 12? Great channel, you should check him out. Honestly, I'm just as surprised as you are that I'm even covering this game. And I've not only played through it twice, I've completed it 100% and replayed the various levels dozens of times. And I'm here to say, it's pretty good. But you'd be forgiven for writing it off before it even released. It had a horrible gameplay reveal, thanks for that IGN, the director's last effort was Sonic Forces, and the game's design seemed to be aping a lot from Breath of the Wild, a game beloved by Zelda fans who hate to see it inspire other games. I thought you guys liked this kind of game! But Sonic Frontiers is probably the most fun I've had with an official Sonic game since Mania. A breath of fresh air for the series and innovating on what currently works for the franchise and bringing back a few bits from the Hog's storied career to create a solid experience from Sonic Team. Gameplay, music, level design, it fires on all cylinders. Heck, I was even interested in the story this time around. Kicking off with Amy, her boyfriend Sonic, and his boyfriend Tails chasing after the Chaos Emeralds, which have been drawn to a series of mysterious islands, or archipelago if you're a geography bro. Upon arriving, the trio are swallowed into a mysterious portal, which only Sonic escapes from. Waking up in an unfamiliar environment littered with strange ruins and robots with geometry instead of faces, a voice only Sonic hears tells him to tear down the walls between dimensions by defeating the Titans, and the adventure begins. Which is weird, because when most people hear voices that tell them to kill, it isn't nearly as fun a time. Grab the children! Save the children! As I said in the RoboBlast 2 video, Sonic stories have never been the franchise's strong suit, and the overarching narrative here isn't anything mind-blowing. But what is really strong this time around is the characterization and Sonic's interpersonal relationships with the cast of characters. You really get a good sense of Sonic's carefree attitude for life and adventure, but sprinkled in are a lot of great moments that really inform the type of hero he is. Someone as quick to forgive as he is fast on his feet and willing to go to any lengths to help those who need it. But his personality is also multi-layered. He's someone that knows when to crack a joke and when someone just needs a friend. But he also has different approaches for each of the individuals he meets. With Knuckles, he's quick to butt heads and the two of them make fun of one another, but you can tell they have each other's backs. With Tails, Sonic feels much more relaxed and brotherly, with total confidence in the mutant Kennedy. And with Amy, he acts far more concerned and emotionally aware, which makes sense given that they're now dating officially. Goth Queen, get it! But the side cast also have their own little character arcs. Knuckles' inherent loneliness and survivor's guilt as the last of the echidnas, Tails has an inferiority complex and lack of self-confidence, but probably the most effective and engrossing was the relationship between Eggman and new character Sage, a sentient AI construction of the Doctor's own design. As the game progresses, you see them slowly grow from a creator and creation duo to one of father and daughter. Sage herself, while initially very cold and calculating like a program, eventually becomes a very concerned and loving individual for Eggman. And Eggman, realizing that he sees her as a daughter because he's better than God for creating her, is very much in line with his overinflated ego. I mean, honestly, give this a listen.
Who says I can't create life, huh? Just a bunch of proteins pumping together, anyone can do that. A true genius does it with code and electrons.
They have some of the sweetest moments in the game, and it's actually their relationship that underpins the whole experience. It's also really refreshing to see some of the man in Eggman, rather than just the cartoon villain or borderline idiot that he's usually depicted as. It just feels like the narrative is a bit more grown up. I mean, it kind of has to be when the only other characters you interact with are stone wind chimes, which are the lingering regrets of the now extinct native race, and throughout the entire story, Sonic is contracting digital cancer. It's not gritty or dark for the sake of it, but it has stakes and weight that are demanded by the somber tone of the story. And look, I get it, games like these are aimed at kids, but kids can handle themes like this. I mean, for people like me who were hatched in the 90s, one of the most popular children's media of the time opened up with a double homicide and a child being marked for death by Wizard Hitler, and I turned out fine. But the main crux of the game is the gameplay, unsurprisingly. Now, the majority of the trailers would lead you to believe this is an open world game. That's not really the case. It's a series of unconnected large biomes called open zones, and they're only a third of the game, the other two parts being cyberspace and the Titan fights. Now, while people have compared the open zones to Breath of the Wild, I can't really agree. Sonic is taking less inspiration from Zelda and his girlfriend whose name I can't remember, and more so from his red-clad rival, Mario. You see, these open zones zones feel much more akin to a collectathon platformer like Odyssey, a large open playground that lets the player experiment with the movement tools at your disposal and is littered with the game's various collectibles. Memory tokens that let you interact with the side characters, gears to unlock cyberspace levels, and keys to unlock Chaos Emeralds. Not only are these zones designed like a Tony Hawk level so you can experiment with Sonic's movements, but you can also engage in combat with the various mobs and mini-bosses to break up the gameplay. But one of the more interesting design choices is if you don't love these open zones, you can limit the amount you have to interact with them. Scattered throughout the map are purple coins which allow you to play the fishing minigame. Here you can exchange your score for a fast travel ability, gears to avoid the mini-bosses, keys to avoid cyberspace sections, or upgrade materials. It really streamlines the aspects you may not enjoy over another, while also redeeming Big the Cat. You went from the worst part of adventure to the handiest part of this game. You beautiful purple bastard. I love ya. But if you ask me, you're mainly going to be spending those points on upgrades or gears for the cyberspace levels, which are my second favorite thing about the game. These bite-sized levels are your more traditional Sonic affair. However, they've undergone some changes from the previous game. Boost no longer damages enemies, meaning they are once again objects you need to be mindful of, rather than running into them at Mach 1 and turning them into a smear.
That's no good.
And the levels themselves are short affairs, with the longest of them running just under 3 minutes, and the majority of them being 40 seconds if you know what you're doing. Now, their shorter duration may lead you to believe that they have less value than longer levels in more recent games, but what it lacks in length, it makes up for in complexity. How did my girlfriend's text end up in this script? Each level has 4 objectives attached to it. Reach the goal, finish with an S rank, finish with a certain number of rings, and collect all the red star rings. Each objective rewards an additional key, so completing additional tasks optimizes your emerald collecting, which if Shadow the Hedgehog taught us anything, it can be brutal collecting them gems, man. But level objectives don't have to be completed in a single run, and red rings found in previous playthroughs carry over, meaning for most levels you'll do at least 2 runs, a speed-based run and an explorative playthrough. However, even without the objectives, the cyberspace levels are addicting, featuring skill-based routes and branching paths, and a handful even incorporating gimmicks, like skateboards, drifting, vertically oriented levels, and a mix of 2D and 3D oriented ones. It feels much more classic Sonic in design, so much so they've recreated a handful of levels from Sonic Adventure 2 like Skyrail and Metal Harbor, and they work so well in this style that you almost forget their homages and just embrace the awesome. Speaking of awesome, after you've collected the Chaos Emeralds, you can become a blonde and have even more fun by going head to head with the Titans. These are admittedly easy given that as Super Sonic you're invincible, but they are the most empowering part of the game. You're flying about beasts taller than the Empire State Building, pummeling the shit out of them after they made you look like a bitch, and in some cases you even get to use their weapons against them. Sure, it is just the same simple combat from the open zones against the bigger punching bag, but when you get into the flow of them, they feel anime as But the thing that really ties it together and creates that badass feeling is the music. Remember how at the end of both adventure games you'd turn super and fight a giant boss while cheesy butt rock played? Yeah, every Titan in this game has its own unique theme, and they are all amazing. Featuring grungy industrial metal that wouldn't feel amiss in a Devil May Cry game, it just gets under your skin and makes you want to fight. Remember when I said cyberspace was my second favorite thing? That's because the soundtrack is my favorite thing about this game. And I know, when people like me with skin tones the same shade as whipped cream talk about music, no matter what our point, we sound like this.
Oh, dig that crazy rhythm.
Oh, no.
But hands down, this is the best soundtrack I've heard all year. And not because of the butt rock. Well, a little because of the butt rock. But what's really impressive about it is the sheer variety of the tracks. Yeah, all the Titan themes fall into the adrenaline-pumping industrial rock, but the overworld themes are far more atmospheric and varied. The initial theme has this subtle and mysterious opening before transitioning to this very melancholic piano to match that foreboding vibe, but it also has hints of synth to allude to the machines which patrol the island. The second island adds more Middle Eastern instruments like a pungi and a tanpura to create the familiar desert vibe, but there's also a sense of playfulness in it. Now, the third theme for Chaos Island may be my favorite. It's got very aggressive strings and drum beats, and this constant rumbling underpinning the whole piece. But even the more consistent tracks for the cyberspace themes slap hard. From the moment you're dropped into the game, they just pop off. They all just have this punch to them that make me want to bust out the Naruto run and really elevate these already amazing levels. Despite the fact that I love this game and have put so many hours into it and gotten all of the achievements, there are some big problems I have with it. Pop-in for level geometry is really bad. Sonic is weirdly attracted to surfaces, which explains all the grinding. Cyberspace reuses ad nauseum assets from the same 4 levels over and over, and Sonic's speed is wildly inconsistent. In some 2D sections, even when boosting, he feels really sluggish, like he's wading through tar. Jumping brings his momentum to a stop, and without boosting or speed pads, he feels ridiculously slow. I get some of this is due to wanting players to have more control, but this is really bad. Hell, the fact that speed is a stat you need to upgrade feels kind of silly. Sometimes you can even go too fast, hit something in the environment, and then this happens. And I know people are going to say fan games like Sonic Utopia have done something similar to this, with arguably better results. But if you've watched my Roboblast 2 video, you'll know that at the time I was kind of sick of 3D Sonic. Like, I don't think there's been one I've genuinely enjoyed since Sonic Adventure 2, and even then I was ignoring 2/3 of the game. Plus, Sega know they still have work to do, with the director seeing this as something of a learning experience for Sonic Team, and they are taking on board criticism of the game. And also, they've kept most of what's worked from previous games and coalesced it here, which was a real concern after a flop like Forces. Most of the time after Sonic underperforms, they take the current format outside, tell it to think about the rabbits, and then BLAM! It happened to the 2D style after Knuckles Chaotix, the adventure style after 06, and I'd have put good money that Forces had done the same to the boost formula. And look, this channel is one that kind of focuses more on the positive aspects. Lord knows there's enough videos bashing the game, and if nothing else, we got OST of the year here, is what I would say.
You done fucked up, Jeff!
This is the most fun I've had with a 3D Sonic in years, and I'm not alone. This has more players at launch than Sonic Mania, and has dedicated fans like Tyson Hess and Ian Flynn contributing to it and creating a love letter to the franchise. Personally, I'd love to see this formula get refined and tweaked, and maybe even get a few more characters to play as. But what's here, if you ask me, is pretty solid. Heck, I even made one of the tracks part of my new outro. Speaking of, what did you guys think? Did I bring you around on Frontiers? Do you think they should just do an Adventure 3? Or is Donkey right and we should just clown on people for trying? Let me know in the comments, like and sub, and ring the bell to stay up to date. And if you want more Sonic material, check out my video on Sonic Roboblast 2, a fan game that's been worked on for 25 years. Or you could check out Box 12. I genuinely think his stuff is amazing, and he's done some really good videos on various Sonic properties over the years. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, see you later.